Welcome to G Fun Facts Online. Today we are standing on the precipice of history. Let's transport our minds to the humid air of Florida's Space Coast. It is hanging heavy over Launch Complex 39B. This is hallowed ground. This site has witnessed the triumphs of the shuttle era and the ghosts of Apollo. But today, in the early weeks of 2026, the concrete pad supports a new colossus. Standing 322 feet tall, bathed in the xenons of floodlights that struggle to illuminate its full majesty, is the Space Launch System, or SLS. Perched atop this spire of orange foam and white steel is the Integrity. That is the name of the Orion spacecraft that will carry 4 human beings further from Earth than anyone has traveled in over half a century. We are talking about Artemis II. This is not merely a mission, it is a statement of intent, a validation of engineering, and a definitive step toward a multi-planetary future. While Artemis I proved the machine could fly, Artemis II has a much darker, heavier responsibility. It must prove it can sustain life. It is a 10-day odyssey designed to push the envelope of deep space survival, navigation, and propulsion. It is the bridge between the footprints of the past and the lunar bases of the future. In this episode, we are going deep into the story of that mission. We are going to look at the crew, the machine, the physics, and the daring return to the moon. Let's start with the beating hearts of this machine. Spaceflight is often discussed in terms of delta-v, thrust-to-weight ratios, and specific impulse. But at the heart of Artemis II are 4 individuals, selected not just for their technical prowess, but for their ability to represent humanity in the black void beyond low Earth orbit. First, we have Commander Reed Wiseman. He is a native of Baltimore and a decorated naval aviator. Wiseman carries the mantle of command with a blend of jovial approachability and steely competence. He is a veteran of the International Space Station, so he knows the psychological rigors of orbit. But commanding Artemis II is a different beast entirely. He is not just managing a timeline, he is managing the first crewed flight of a new vehicle. His role during the launch phase is critical. He will be monitoring the automated ascent, ready to trigger an abort if the flight computers miss a catastrophic anomaly. Wiseman has spent years in the simulator, mastering the nuances of Orion's manual control systems, which will be tested during the proximity operations demonstration. Next to him, in the pilot's seat, sits Victor Glover, a man whose resume reads like the protagonist of a techno-thriller. A seasoned test pilot and engineer, Glover made history as the first black astronaut to live on the ISS for a long-duration mission. On Artemis II, he becomes the first person of color to leave Earth's orbit. Glover's primary technical responsibility lies in the systems management of the SLS during ascent and, crucially, the manual piloting of Orion during the proximity operations. His hands will be on the controls as they dance with the spent upper stage of the rocket, a delicate ballet performed at thousands of miles per hour. Then we have Mission Specialist Christina Koch. She is an engineer's engineer, holding the record for the longest single spaceflight by a woman. She is intimately familiar with the effects of microgravity on the human body. On Artemis II, she serves as the flight engineer, the master of Orion's systems. She is the first woman to travel to the moon, a milestone that reshapes the demographics of exploration. Her focus is the Environmental Control and Life Support System, or ECLSS. This is the machinery that scrubs carbon dioxide and generates oxygen. On this flight, for the first time, that system is not just a test article, it is the only thing keeping them alive. Rounding out the crew is Mission Specialist Jeremy Hansen. Representing the Artemis Accords and the international nature of this return, Jeremy Hansen of the Canadian Space Agency joins the crew. A former fighter pilot and a lifelong explorer, Hansen is the first non-American to leave low Earth orbit. His presence signifies that the return to the moon is not a solitary sprint by a superpower, but a collective stride by humanity. Hansen manages the timeline and payload operations, ensuring that every moment of the 10-day trek yields the maximum amount of data. Now let's talk about the chariot that will take them there, the SLS Block 1. To break the shackles of Earth's gravity requires violence controlled by mathematics. The Space Launch System Block 1 is the most powerful rocket ever successfully launched by NASA, generating a staggering 8.8 million pounds of thrust at liftoff. That is 15% more than the legendary Saturn V. The backbone of the SLS is the massive core stage, towering 212 feet. Its orange hue is the signature of the thermal protection foam insulation, crucial for keeping the superchilled propellants liquid in the Florida heat. Inside, 2 massive tanks hold 733,000 gallons of liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen. At the base sit 4 RS-25 engines. These are not new inventions, they are veterans. Salvaged from the Space Shuttle program, upgraded with new controllers, and pushed to 109% of their original rated power, these engines are the Ferraris of rocket propulsion. They are efficient, powerful, and reusable, though on this mission, sadly, they will be sacrificed to the ocean. Flanking the core are the twin 5-segment solid rocket boosters. Standing 17 stories tall, these are the heavy lifters. Once ignited, they cannot be turned off. For the first 2 minutes of flight, they provide 75% of the total thrust, burning 6 tons of propellant per second. Think about that power. They are the roar that rattles chest cavities 3 miles away. They are the raw force that punches the integrity through the thick atmosphere. Stacked above the core is the Interim Cryogenic Propulsion Stage, or ICPS. Powered by a single RL-10 engine, this stage is responsible for 2 critical maneuvers, raising the Earth orbit to a high ellipse, and then performing the trans-lunar injection burn that flings the crew toward the moon. If SLS is the muscle, the spacecraft, Orion, is the brain and the shield. The crew module, christened Integrity, is a cone-shaped haven. It is 30% larger than the Apollo command module. It features a modern glass cockpit with 3 main display screens, replacing the hundreds of switches found in Apollo. It brings creature comforts previously unknown in deep space, such as a private toilet area known as the Universal Waste Management System, a galley for rehydrating food, and exercise equipment to combat muscle atrophy. Crucially, Orion carries a radiation shelter. In the event of a solar flare, the crew can retreat to the center of the capsule, using stowage bags to create a dense wall against high-energy particles. Below the crew module lies the powerhouse of the ship, built not by NASA, but by the European Space Agency and Airbus. This is the European Service Module, or ESM. It provides electricity via 4 solar array wings, water, oxygen, and propulsion. It is a marvel of international cooperation. Its main engine is actually a refurbished orbital maneuvering system engine from the Space Shuttle, giving the vehicle a proven heritage. The ESM also manages the thermal control, pumping fluid through radiators to shed the intense heat generated by electronics and crew metabolism. Now let's walk through the mission profile, because Artemis II is distinct from Apollo 8. It does not aim to enter a low lunar orbit. Instead, it follows a hybrid free return trajectory, a safety-first flight path designed to ensure the crew comes home even if the main engine fails after the lunar burn. It starts at T-0. The 4 RS-25s ignite, followed milliseconds later by the SRBs, the hold-down bolts explode, and the stack rises. The crew experiences a crushing 4G acceleration. 8 minutes later, the core stage cuts off and separates, falling back to Earth. The crew is now in orbit, but they do not head to the moon yet. This brings us to the high Earth orbit and proximity operations. This is the major deviation from Apollo. Orion and the attached ICPS enter an elliptical orbit around Earth, roughly 115 by 1400 miles. They stay here for 24 hours. Why? To test the life support. If the CO2 scrubbers fail or the toilet breaks in low Earth orbit, the crew can come home in hours. If they fail halfway to the moon, the crew is dead. This checkout orbit is the critical safety gate. During this phase, pilot Victor Glover takes manual control. He separates Orion from the spent ICPS stage, turns the spacecraft around, and practices docking approaches. They won't actually dock, but they will fly in close formation, testing the handling qualities of the ship with the heavy service module attached. It proves Orion can dock with the lunar lander, like Starship or the Gateway Station in future missions. Once systems are green, the ICPS fires one last time. This is the trans-lunar injection. It is the big burn. It accelerates the crew to 24,500 miles per hour, escaping Earth's gravity well. They are now committed. For 4 days, the crew lives in the void. They cross the Van Allen radiation belts, where the sensors will spike, and the crew will hunker down. They will see Earth shrink to a marble, the blue marble view that changed humanity's perspective in 1968. They will conduct medical experiments, testing how the human body processes nutrients and drugs in deep space radiation environments. They will test the optical communications system, beaming high-definition video back to Earth via laser, letting us ride along in real time. Then comes Day 5, the flyby. The moon looms large, a gray, cratered behemoth filling the window, unlike Apollo, which skimmed 60 miles above the surface. Artemis II swings wide, about 6,400 miles beyond the far side. This moment is historic. As they pass behind the moon, they will lose contact with Earth for nearly 30 minutes. They will be the furthest humans have ever been from home, over 230,000 miles, plus another 4,600 miles beyond the Apollo 13 record. In the silence of the lunar shadow, looking down at the battered crust of the far side, the crew will see the universe as no one has seen it for decades, stars unpolluted by Earthshine, a depth of blackness that is absolute. Then, the Earthrise. As they emerge from behind the moon, our blue planet will rise over the lunar limb, a symbol of fragility and unity. Gravity then slingshots them back toward Earth. 4 days later, they approach the atmosphere at Mach 32, traveling at 25,000 miles per hour. The re-entry is a feat of unparalleled engineering. Apollo capsules plunge directly in, Orion will perform a skip entry. It will hit the upper atmosphere, bounce off it like a stone skipping on a pond to bleed off speed and manage heat, and then dive back in for the final descent. This technique reduces the G-force load on the crew and allows for a more precise landing. The heat shield, made of an advanced AVCOAT material, will endure temperatures of 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit. It will char and ablate, carrying the heat away from the crew. Finally, 3 main parachutes, orange and white, will bloom. The Integrity will splash down in the Pacific Ocean off the coast of San Diego, where U.S. Navy divers and the recovery ship will be waiting. It is important to note the engineering challenges that got us here. The delay of Artemis II to 2026 was driven by the uncompromising demand for safety. 3 specific hurdles define the preparation. First, the heat shield. Analysis of Artemis I showed the heat shield charred differently than predicted, with some material liberating in chunks rather than ablating smoothly. Engineers spent 2024 and 2025 modeling this, ultimately determining that despite the pockmarked appearance, the thermal protection remained sufficient. Second, life support. Artemis I had no breathers on board. Artemis II is the debut of the oxygen generation and CO2 removal hardware. Extensive ground testing in vacuum chambers has pushed these systems to failure points to ensure they hold up in the vacuum of space. And third, the abort system. The launch abort system is a rocket atop the rocket. If the SLS fails on the pad or during ascent, the LAS pulls the capsule away at 15 gigaseconds. Validating the software that triggers this system has been a monumental task of coding and simulation. So, why do we return? Why spend billions to repeat a journey made in 1968? Because Artemis is not a repetition. It is a foundation. Apollo was a race. Artemis is a residence. The orbit and trajectory of Artemis II are designed to verify the physics and systems needed for Artemis III, which will land on the lunar South Pole. That is a region of eternal light and eternal shadow, where water ice hides in the craters. Water is fuel. Water is air. If we can harvest it, the moon becomes a gas station for the solar system. The Lunar Gateway, a space station to be built in lunar orbit, will serve as the staging ground for missions to Mars. Artemis II is the proof of concept for the deep space transport that will take us there. Furthermore, the scientific yield is distinct. The crew will be observing the lunar surface from a unique vantage point, identifying geological features for future landings. They are testing the radiation shielding that is a prerequisite for the 6-month journey to the Red Planet. As the countdown clock at Kennedy Space Center ticks towards zero in early 2026, the world holds its breath. Artemis II is more than a test flight. It is the rekindling of a spirit that many feared was lost, the spirit of exploration that drives us to look at the horizon and ask, what lies beyond? When Wiseman, Glover, Koch, and Hansen climb into the Integrity, they carry with them the hopes of the Artemis generation. They go not as conquerors, but as pathfinders. The engineering is sound. The risks are calculated. The destination is waiting. We are going back. And this time, we are staying.